r/NoSleep. Posted by u/no_faithlessness 3500. There was just one rule. Don't look outside at night. My family is fairly normal, I'd say. Happy and with enough money to get by life easily enough. We live just about 30 miles from the closest town, and I find myself wondering how anyone chose to settle around here in the first place. I should probably explain my situation so that people can understand this. Like I said, my family lives a fair distance from town, and along with this solitude and peace from factors such as light pollution came a rule. The rule was simple enough: don't look outside at night. I asked my mother why such a rule existed a few years back, and according to her it became a rule because of what happened to my father. According to her, there were noises outside at night, and so my father went outside to check them out after they wouldn't stop after a few nights because they were losing sleep over them. After a few minutes, he just came back inside, didn't say a word, and went straight to bed. My mother said he was gone the next morning. The noises happened every night from then on. That story led me to where I am now. Over the years I wondered more and more what it was that happened to my father, and tonight is the night I made up my mind. I stayed up late enough for the noises to start and to make sure the rest of my family would be asleep. Tonight was the night I would look outside, just to see what it was that my father saw. I decided I would see it too, even if it killed me or I disappeared like my father. I went to the window in my room, opened the curtains, and stared out. What I saw was the woods surrounding our home, but there was an obvious intrusion in the black scenery. There were two orbs of yellow piercing through the tree line. My eyes immediately locked onto the unfamiliar sight as I tried to figure out what they were. Then two more appeared, slowly fading into my vision. Then two more, coming in from the side of my vision. Slowly increasing until at least 40 orbs of yellow were in the trees. Then I saw them, the slits of black in those orbs slowly dilating as I realized that all the eyes were looking directly at me. I closed the curtains as quickly as I could after that. I rushed to my computer to at least get something typed down. That was when I heard it, louder than ever before, the noises outside, the soft thumps upon the ground approaching closer towards the window. I jumped up to make sure the window was locked, hearing nearly the same noise move away from the window before circling the building. Then the breathing began, a heavy breath outside the window, then another. The thumps then came down the hallway of my house. My door was already locked to make sure no one else would interrupt me in seeing what my father saw, yet I still felt a sense of dread as the noise approached it. Then a second pair of lungs began to breathe just as heavily, just outside the door to my room. That was when it sank into me that I wouldn't be leaving my room alive tonight, or at least wouldn't be leaving of my own volition. I saw the eyes at about 12:30, it has reached 2 a.m. as I write this. My eyes are growing heavy. I recognize that the moment my guard has lowered and my eyes have closed, I will suffer the same fate as my father, and I see that it may be an even worse fate than I had imagined. I will be going to sleep soon after typing this. My only hope is that my mother and younger brother don't make the same mistake I have. I will suffer the consequences for breaking my family's one rule: don't look outside at night. The next story of this video. Posted by u/Shrek_law. The tooth fairy comes to my town once a month for our teeth. I remember when I was young, before my family came to this town, before I believed in the tooth fairy. It exists in many different cultures. That in exchange for teeth would grant something in return. In Korea, India and Botswana among other countries, they throw their old fallen out baby teeth onto the roof of their houses in order to grow new teeth to replace the ones lost. They ask a squirrel, in Sri Lanka, a rat in Haiti and a bird in India and Korea. The tooth fairy comes to this town as well, except all we gain in exchange is suffering, and instead of an animal it comes in the form of a demon. My hand tightened around my rifle. Tonight we'll put this to an end. It visits us once a month every full moon to collect our teeth. I check my watch. It reads 11:59. It's soon time. A loud deep ringing fills the street, echoing through the empty streets. There is not a person in sight. I scan the sky, but apart from the bright moon it's empty. Until I see it. Through the scope of my rifle I am able to see a black speck. It slowly grows bigger. I can now make out its disgusting figure, its empty eyes, its shrunken pale face, and its unusually large and wide mouth. Its hideous wings it lands soundlessly. If I hadn't seen it I wouldn't have heard a thing. It's still gross no matter how many times I see it. The doors of the surrounding buildings open and fearful people come pouring out, sticking close together, eyes wide in fear. A little girl walks towards it, no older than 7. A woman cries out from the crowd, but it's too late. It turns its head towards her with a smile on its face. The girl is seemingly unfazed by its terrible countenance and gives a toothy smile despite missing several teeth. She reaches out her tiny chubby hand holding two small teeth in it. "They fell out last week, please take them. One is for me and one is for my mommy," the little girl said. It slowly reached its hand forward, the moonlight glinting off of its rough gray skin, and grabbed it. Its mouth opened and it spoke in a low raspy voice. "Fresh. Fresh teeth," it said. "These aren't fresh teeth." It raised its voice. "I need fresh teeth. These are from last week." Its eyes turned into slits. It raised its arm and struck forward, but instead of striking the girl, her mother rushed in between, somehow managing to escape, and the crowd received the blow. The loud crack of her head splitting echoed across the street. The girl was too shocked to speak, her mouth was wide open but no sound came out. It leaned forward, seemingly unfazed by the change of events. It reached into the crushed head of the mom and withdrew wide objects. I couldn't stomach it and turned away. When I turned back, it was grinning again. "More," it whispered gleefully. Slowly people began approaching it. "Damn it, where's the signal?" I thought. As if on cue, an old man moved forward, pulled back his coat revealing a shotgun, and shot it point blank in the chest. That was when all pandemonium broke loose. People ran in all directions screaming. Two men with rags obscuring their faces rushed forward wielding long daggers and stabbed it multiple times all over its body. They didn't hesitate, they didn't stop, they didn't give it time to react. It withered in pain and let out a shriek but was unable to resist. A horn blared, this time from a red pickup truck. It cruised down the street churning up dust and gravel and plowed directly into the creature. The creature was flung 7 yards forwards, the pickup truck was smoking heavily and a large dent was left in the center of the bumper. The creature, to everyone's dismay, slowly stumbled back to its feet. That's when I pulled the trigger. I'd only practiced on deer but not to toot my own horn. I was a natural from the start. The shot was a damn good shot. It pierced it through the eye, snapping the head backwards. The men began cheering but my blood ran cold. It did not fall, instead it turned its head and focused its remaining eye directly at me. It grinned. Its body then began morphing, it oozed a thick green pus and its skin turned transparent. Something was moving inside of it. Its chest burst open revealing a head. Out of the chest the head was followed by shoulders, a pair of arms, hips, legs and feet. The men were still celebrating, they whooped and cheered thinking their torment had ended. I tried to call out but it was too late. It vanished from my vision, moving at speeds it never had before, and ripped out the neck of the person who had the shotgun. The men panicked but quickly charged again. They still wielded knives but this time it clinked off its skin. It was way harder now. I tried to fire again but the men were in the way. It grabbed the hand of the knife wielder and snapped it. The same way you or me would snap a cucumber. It grinned at its pain before opening its mouth impossibly wide, revealing rows upon rows of teeth, and bit down on the man over his entire upper body. The man could only give a startled yell before his torso was torn in half. The two men tried to retreat but they were too slow. They were both decapitated instantly. It picked up one of the heads and walked towards the truck. The man inside was unable to escape and he sat there with his eyes wide in fear. It reached into the decapitated man's mouth and plucked out red-stained teeth. The root was intact and it began snacking on them as it slowly walked ever closer to the truck. It jumped onto the windshield and using its clawed hand speared the man through the heart. I fired the trigger again. It dined on its armor-like skin. It stopped and looked back at me. It got off the truck and flung the truck. Right at me. I scrambled up but I was too slow. It splintered the old rotten wooden wall, sending splinters flying in all directions. I was knocked to the side and the truck fell through the floor as it was unable to bear its weight. It landed gently beside me and grabbed me by the arm and flicked its wrist. A white stick was protruding from my forearm. I realized it was my bone before my arm erupted in pain. It brought its face to mine. Drool dripped from its face and its breath stunk horribly like dead fish that had festered in the sun. "I'll come again and then this town will be destroyed." It then cocked its head to the side, "Not that it'll make any difference for you." It then jammed its hand into my mouth, grabbing a part of my upper jaw. It violently ripped out a handful of teeth with some blood vessels and bones still attached to it. It tossed it into its mouth and ground it up with its teeth. A look of pleasure crossed its face before it leapt into the sky with its powerful legs disappearing into the night. It's been a couple of days since the incident and I have given up all hope. If you ever see the tooth fairy, never resist and always offer fresh teeth.